Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. We know these words. Robert Frost's immortal words speak of the tough choices that we make in life and how we choose our own way forward. But upon rereading them, they speak to me of a different challenge in life, the challenge of only knowing what we know. How well do we know other people's paths? We may think we do. We may go through life making assumptions about other people's lives and their worldviews, but if we're honest with ourselves, we only know what we know. In the Torah this week is that dramatic scene of the golden calf and Moses smashing the 10 Commandments. And if we zoom in on that story a bit, we understand from the text that the people at the bottom of the mountain were afraid. They didn't understand why Moses, their leader, was taking so long coming back down. And so they reacted by trying to protect themselves. A bad decision, no doubt, but an understandable sentiment. And if we focus on Moses, he was up on top of Mount Sinai, having an intimate conversation with God. He felt so sure of God's presence and realness that he was flabbergasted by the Israelites' choice to build a golden calf. So he smashed the tablets in anger. Another bad decision, but understandable given the circumstances. The people are looking up, and Moses is looking down, and they are seeing vastly different situations. The misunderstanding is huge and unfortunate and really quite predictable if we think about it. We only know what we know. We have just finished celebrating Purim, and we're now preparing for Passover. That actually makes this the last couple of weeks of the year. Nisan, the month when Passover happens, is actually the first month in the Hebrew year. Even though we celebrate Rosh Hashanah, that's actually the seventh month if we count. We'll think about our High Holiday Prayer Book in the 7th month. So Nisan is the first month. And Adar, in which we celebrate Purim, is the last month. So we find ourselves right now in the hallway between two significant holidays that could not be more different. In my studies this week, I discovered an aspect of the Purim story I'd never really noticed before that's actually related to Passover. We have all heard of the 14th of Adar, the day on which the Jews were not destroyed, as Haman had planned, but it turns out that the day that Haman sent out the edict that he planned to destroy the Jews was actually on the 13th of Nisan, the day before Passover. It would be akin to saying in mid-January what you plan to do in mid-December. So Esther and Mordecai and the entire Jewish community got the news about Haman's plan right before Passover, right before the festival. Passover, our next Jewish holiday, is a holiday about certainty. It's got the plagues and the parting of the Red Sea, a leader, Moses, who is having constant chats with the divine. Purim, on the other hand, is a holiday all about uncertainty. God is hidden, and the story is suspenseful. Esther and Mordecai have no obvious contact with God. And when Esther receives the news right before Pesach of Haman's plan, she tells her people, fast for 3 days. So what she is actually saying is, ignore Passover this year. It's irrelevant. That is a story about the past. It cannot save us now. And we learn from commentary on this story of the Megillah that some people thought Esther and Mordecai's leadership through this crisis was great. Most of them, in fact, the Megillah says at the very end. But others thought that they were neglectful of their Judaism during this time, according to our commentators. So we can imagine that many Jews did what Esther had commanded and ignored Passover that year and fasted instead. But others ignored Esther and clung tightly to their traditional holiday. And who's to say what was the right thing to do? Were the people saved from Haman only because of Esther's actions, or did the celebrating and the praying of the others save the Jews as well? The story actually doesn't say. What is clear is that there are different reactions to crisis. For some, hugging tighter to tradition is the response, and for others, letting go and opening up to a broader world is the response. And these two responses exist within the same story. These responses also exist within the same calendar year, every year. We still have Passover, the holiday that has been celebrated continuously, longer than any other holiday in the world. The holiday about guaranteed redemption, about God's saving power, about miracles, and about ultimate triumph. But we also have Purim, the holiday that's the newest in our history, about uncertainty and about human political maneuvering and an understated God. The fact that both exist in our year is indicative of the fact that Judaism is not going to rule on this issue for us. They are both present. They are both in some ways meritorious. But what Judaism does insist we do is crawl inside both worldviews. Make that circle every year. Go from the joy of Rosh Hashanah to the fear of Yom Kippur. Go from the vulnerability of Sukkot to the strength of Hanukkah. Go from uncertainty during Purim to the certainty of Passover. Our holidays weave a tapestry of theologies together, in which we sometimes feel strong and powerful, and other times we feel afraid. Our tradition desperately wants us to be able to look at the world in a wide variety of ways. It no more wants us to choose one single idea of how the world and God works than it wants us to sit at a Seder table during Purim, or it wants us to wear a silly costume during Passover. This may seem like a small idea, but it's actually revolutionary. If we pay attention, it equips us for the most difficult moments in our lives, when we have to have the most challenging types of conversations, when we cannot understand someone else without trying to see what they see and learn what they know. Our Torah, our Bible, our calendar is trying to give us the gift of seeing the world in many different ways so that we won't make the same mistakes that our ancestors did. We won't only stand at the bottom of the mountain and feel alone. We won't only stand at the top of the mountain and feel superior. We won't build false gods, and we won't smash tablets. Rather, we'll be ready to see both roads. And the one we're on, yes, but also the one we haven't taken yet. And know that while we only know what we know, our tradition beseeches us to always be open to learning what it is we do not know. Shabbat Shalom.